3 million years ago, the world was a frozen wasteland. Massive glaciers covered entire continents. Temperatures plummeted to levels that would kill a modern human in hours. Predators the size of cars roamed the ice. And in the middle of this nightmare, our ancestors were trying to survive. No technology, no shelter, no fire, just raw human determination against the most brutal environment Earth has ever known. This is the story of how we survived the Ice Age. And the answer will shock you. Close your eyes and imagine this. You wake up, not in your warm bed, but on frozen ground. The temperature is minus 30 degrees Celsius. There's no house, no heating, no clothing, except animal skins you killed yourself. You're hungry, you're cold, and somewhere in the darkness, a saber-toothed cat is hunting. This was reality for our ancestors every single day for thousands of years. The Pleistocene epoch. Scientists call it the Ice Age. It lasted from 2.6 million years ago to about 11,700 years ago. During this time, Earth experienced multiple glacial periods where ice sheets advanced and retreated across the planet. At its peak, ice covered nearly 30% of Earth's land surface. That's an area larger than all of Africa. The average global temperature was about 6 degrees Celsius colder than today. That might not sound like much, but it was enough to transform the entire planet. Before we dive deeper into how our ancestors survived this frozen hell, hit that subscribe button right now. We bring you fascinating stories about human history, survival, and the incredible journey of our species every single week. Now, let's travel back 3 million years and meet the humans who refused to die. Who were these people? They weren't quite like us. 3 million years ago, our direct ancestors were species like Australopithecus and early Homo habilis. They stood about 4 to 5 feet tall. Their brains were roughly 1/3 the size of ours. They had no language as we know it, no writing, no complex tools, but they had something more important. They had adaptability, and that made all the difference. Let's start with the most obvious problem, the cold. How do you survive temperatures that would give you hypothermia in minutes? Modern humans can die from exposure in just 3 hours at minus 30 degrees. Our ancestors didn't have Gore-Tex jackets or insulated boots, so what did they do? They learned from the animals around them. They observed that animals with fur survived, so they started wearing animal skins. But this wasn't as simple as it sounds. Imagine you've just killed a large animal, maybe a mammoth calf or a woolly rhinoceros. You need to remove its skin without damaging it. You need to clean it. You need to scrape away the fat and tissue. You need to dry it without letting it freeze solid. And you need to do all of this with primitive stone tools. It could take days, but our ancestors figured it out. They developed techniques for processing hides that were so effective, some indigenous peoples still use similar methods today. But clothing was just the beginning. You also need shelter, and in the Ice Age, shelter meant the difference between life and death. Our ancestors couldn't just build a house. They didn't have saws or hammers or nails, so they got creative. They found caves, natural rock formations that provided protection from wind and predators. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans lived in caves across Europe, Asia, and Africa. But caves weren't always available, so they built their own shelters using mammoth bones. Yes, you heard that right, mammoth bones. In Ukraine, archaeologists discovered structures made entirely from mammoth bones and tusks. These weren't simple lean-tos. They were sophisticated dwellings with walls, roofs, and even entrance tunnels. One structure used the bones of nearly 100 mammoths. Think about that. Our ancestors had to hunt, kill, and process 100 mammoths just to build one house. The engineering knowledge required was extraordinary. They had to understand weight distribution, structural integrity, and insulation, and they figured it all out through trial and error. Now let's talk about the biggest game changer in human history, fire. The ability to create and control fire separated humans from every other species on Earth. But when did we first master fire? The evidence is controversial. Some scientists believe humans controlled fire as early as 1.5 million years ago. Others say it was closer to 400,000 years ago. But whenever it happened, it changed everything. Fire provided warmth, obviously, but it did so much more. Fire extended the day. Before fire, humans were limited to daylight hours. Once the sun set, you couldn't see predators. You couldn't work. You couldn't socialize. Fire changed that. Suddenly, humans could gather around flames at night. They could tell stories. They could plan hunts. They could strengthen social bonds. This led to more complex communication, more cooperation, more culture. Fire also revolutionized food. Raw meat is hard to digest. It contains parasites and bacteria that can kill you. But cooked meat, it's safer. It's easier to chew. It provides more calories because the cooking process breaks down tough proteins. Some scientists believe that cooking food actually allowed our brains to grow larger. Because we could extract more energy from our food, we could support bigger, more energy-hungry brains. Fire literally made us smarter. But creating fire in the Ice Age wasn't easy. You couldn't just flick a lighter. You had two options: friction or percussion. Friction meant rubbing two pieces of wood together until the friction created enough heat to ignite tinder. This requires the right type of wood, the right technique, and incredible patience. It can take 30 minutes or more. Percussion meant striking two rocks together to create sparks, usually flint and iron pyrite. The sparks would land on dry tinder, moss, or bark, and if you were lucky, you'd get an ember. Then you'd carefully blow on it, add more tinder, and eventually create a flame. Our ancestors had to master these techniques because losing your fire could mean death. So they kept fires burning constantly. They assigned people to tend the flames. They transported fire from place to place using slow-burning materials. Fire became sacred, essential, the center of human life. Let's talk about food. What did Ice Age humans eat? The answer is whatever they could find. And finding food in a frozen wasteland was not easy. There were no grocery stores, no farms, no refrigerators. You ate what you hunted or gathered, or you starved. Hunting was dangerous. The animals of the Ice Age were massive and deadly. Woolly mammoths stood 11 feet tall and weighed 6 tons. Cave bears were 50% larger than modern grizzlies. Saber-toothed cats had fangs 7 inches long. These weren't animals you could hunt alone, so our ancestors developed cooperative hunting strategies. They worked in groups. They communicated using gestures and primitive language. They created weapons. Early humans used sharpened sticks, stone-tipped spears, and eventually atlaws, which are spear-throwing devices that increased range and power. They dug pit traps. They drove animals off cliffs. They used fire to stampede herds toward waiting hunters. These weren't mindless brutes. These were intelligent, strategic thinkers who understood animal behavior and used it to their advantage. But hunting large game was risky. People died a lot. So our ancestors also gathered plant foods. Nuts, berries, roots, seeds. In winter, when plants were scarce, they ate whatever they could find: bark, lichen, insects. Archaeological evidence shows that Ice Age humans had incredibly diverse diets. They were opportunistic omnivores who would eat almost anything to survive. And here's something fascinating. Our ancestors also scavenged. When large predators made a kill, humans would wait until the predator left, then move in and take what remained. This was dangerous. The predator might come back. Other scavengers might attack. But it was also efficient. Why risk your life hunting when you can steal someone else's kill? Our ancestors weren't proud. They were practical. If you're learning something new about human history, make sure you're subscribed to Phantom Archived. We dive deep into the stories that shaped humanity. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Now, let's talk about something even more incredible than survival. Let's talk about community. Humans are social animals. We always have been. And during the Ice Age, social bonds weren't just nice to have, they were essential for survival. You couldn't survive alone. You needed a group, a tribe, a community. Archaeological evidence shows that Ice Age humans lived in groups of 25 to 50 individuals. These weren't random collections of people. They were tight-knit communities with social structures, hierarchies, and rules. They cared for their sick and injured. We found skeletons of Ice Age humans with healed fractures, missing teeth, and signs of long-term illness. These people couldn't hunt, they couldn't gather food, but they survived because their community took care of them. This is remarkable. Most animals abandon sick or injured members, but humans, we help each other. Even 3 million years ago, we understood that our strength came from unity. They also shared knowledge: how to make fire, where to find food, which plants were poisonous, how to track animals. This knowledge was passed down from generation to generation, not through writing, but through demonstration and storytelling. Elders were valued because they held knowledge. They'd survived longer, seen more, learned more, and they taught the young. This intergenerational transfer of knowledge allowed humans to accumulate wisdom over time. Each generation built on what the previous generation learned. Let's talk about something that might surprise you: art. Yes, Ice Age humans created art. We've found cave paintings dating back 40,000 years, images of animals, handprints, abstract symbols. These weren't just doodles. They were sophisticated representations that required planning, skill, and creativity. Some scientists believe these paintings had spiritual or religious significance. Others think they were teaching tools, showing young hunters what animals looked like and how they moved. Either way, they prove that Ice Age humans weren't just surviving. They were thinking, they were imagining, they were human. They also made music. We found flutes carved from bird bones and mammoth ivory dating back 40,000 years. These instruments could play multiple notes. Someone had to understand acoustics to create them. Someone had to have a concept of melody and rhythm. Music served no practical survival purpose. You can't eat it, it doesn't keep you warm. But humans made it anyway, because we're not just survival machines. We're creative beings who need beauty and expression. Now let's address the big question. How did humans survive when so many other species went extinct? The Ice Age killed off countless species: woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant ground sloths, cave bears, woolly rhinoceroses, all gone. But humans survived. Why? The answer is adaptability. While other species were specialized for specific environments, humans were generalists. We could eat almost anything. We could live almost anywhere. We could adapt to changing conditions. When the climate changed, we changed with it. When food sources disappeared, we found new ones. When predators threatened us, we developed new weapons and strategies. We were flexible, creative, innovative, and that made us unstoppable. But it wasn't easy. The Ice Age pushed humanity to the brink of extinction multiple times. Genetic evidence suggests that at one point, the entire human population dropped to as few as 10,000 individuals. We almost didn't make it, but we did. And every human alive today is descended from those survivors. Think about that. Your ancestors survived the Ice Age. They faced predators that would terrify us. They endured cold that would kill us. They went days without food. They watched friends and family die, but they kept going. They adapted, they innovated, they refused to give up. And because of their determination, you exist. You are the product of 3 million years of survival. 3 million years of humans refusing to quit. That's in your DNA. That's your heritage. The Ice Age ended about 11,700 years ago. The glaciers retreated, temperatures rose, the world became the planet we recognize today. And humans, we didn't just survive, we thrived. We developed agriculture, we built cities, we created civilizations. We went from living in caves to landing on the moon, all because our Ice Age ancestors refused to die. If this story inspired you, subscribe to Phantom Archived right now. We explore the incredible true stories of human survival, history, and achievement. And if you want to see more content like this, check out our video about the longest survival story ever recorded. Trust me, it will blow your mind. Thanks for watching. And remember, you come from survivors. Never forget that.